Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany and I would like to welcome you to our Colorado wage withholding video covering the annual transmittal of W-2s and the annual reconciliation filing. You can pause or rewind this video at any time to review the information provided. The topics that we will be covering today are the annual transmittal of Colorado W-2s and the filing of the Colorado wage withholding annual reconciliation using Form DR 1093. At the end of this video, you should be able to accurately and successfully submit your Colorado W-2s and file the annual reconciliation return using Form DR 1093. Before we get started today, we do want to introduce you to a variety of resources that are available to you through the Department of Revenue. These include our website, taxpayer helpline, email address, and our local service centers if you need to contact us. We will also be looking at several different forms today, and the most current versions of all of our forms can be found online at the Department of Revenue Taxation website at tax.colorado.gov under Forms.
Now, no quality presentation is complete without a quality disclaimer, so here's ours. The Colorado Department of Revenue aims to make complex tax information easier to understand. This presentation is intended to provide general information concerning Colorado tax topics in simple and straightforward language. Although we have done our best to provide accurate and complete tax information, this information is not binding on the Department of Revenue, nor does it replace, alter, or supersede Colorado tax law and regulations. We recommend consulting with a tax professional for your specific tax situation. Every employer, regardless of the filing frequency, is required to prepare a W-2 for each employee, and the employer must provide a copy of the W-2 to both the employee and the Colorado Department of Revenue by January 31st of the following year. If the 31st falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, then the due date is pushed to the next business day. An employer that goes out of business, dissolves, or is merged into another corporation, no longer has employees, or otherwise ceases paying wages must file W-2s with the department within 30 days of the final payment of wages. There are two options for filing employee W-2s with the state of Colorado. These can be filed electronically using the Revenue Online system or by paper using Form DR 1093. Employers that are required to file federal W-2s electronically are also required to file any Colorado W-2s electronically. For calendar years 2020 and prior, any employer required to file 250 or more federal W-2s is required to file electronically. Employers that are not required to file electronically may still elect to do so. In order to file the W-2s electronically through the Revenue Online portal, employers must register through the online portal at least 5 days prior to their initial electronic filing. Registration to submit withholding through Revenue Online can be achieved with or without logging in. To register to submit W-2s electronically when logged into your account, click on the hyperlink to submit year-end withholding on the right-hand side of the screen. On the next screen, select Request Withholding Submitter Access and enter all required information following the system prompts. To register without logging in, start on the Revenue Online homepage and click on the hyperlink to submit year-end withholding in the Withholding Information box. On the next screen, select Request Withholding Submitter Access and enter all required information following the system prompts. After an employer successfully registers to submit their W-2s electronically, they will follow a similar path to file their W-2s. Starting at colorado.gov/revenueonline, click on the hyperlink Submit Year-End Withholding in the Withholding Information box. From here, the employer may choose to manually enter all W-2 information or to upload an electronic file in TXT format. Specifications for the electronic file are located in the Colorado Wage Withholding Tax Guide in Appendix A. Employers that are not required to file electronically may instead file their W-2s and annual reconciliation using the paper form DR 1093. All W-2s should be attached to this form and all fields should be completed on the form, even if there is no refund being claimed and no balance due to report. If a W-2 issued by an employer does not report the correct amount of Colorado wage withholding, the employer is required to furnish both the employee and the department with a corrected W-2 using Form W-2C, reporting the correct amount of wages and withholding. The corrected W-2 must be provided to both the employee and the Department of Revenue in the time provided under federal law for correcting W-2s. Corrected W-2s should be mailed to the department along with a cover letter to the following address: Colorado Department of Revenue, Discovery Section, P.O. Box 17087, Denver, Colorado 80217-0087. The DR 1093 also serves as an annual reconciliation, which will allow you to reconcile all of the payments made in the calendar year against all of the withholding being reported on W-2s. For withholding that has been underpaid, a payment can be submitted with the DR 1093. For withholding that has been overpaid, the completed DR 1093 claiming the overpayment, if filed by January 31st of the following year, will serve as the claim for refund of overpayment. Employers that are submitting their W-2s by paper are required to include the DR 1093 with their submission. Employers that submit their W-2s electronically should only file the DR 1093 if they are reporting additional tax due or are requesting a refund of overpaid withholding. When the DR 1093 is being submitted without W-2 attachments, it can either be filed electronically through Revenue Online or may be filed using the paper form DR 1093. Electronic filing of the DR 1093 is available through Revenue Online. A login will need to be established in the Revenue Online system prior to the DR 1093 being filed electronically. We will now go over the steps to file electronically using Revenue Online.
After logging in, locate the wage withholding account. On the right side of the screen in the account box, click File and View Returns Payments. On the next page, identify the withholding reconciliation return and click File Now.
The full path for filing the withholding reconciliation return is laid out here for your reference. Here's what the DR 1093 looks like in Revenue Online. Line 1 would be entered for the total amount of Colorado withholding withheld from all Colorado employees per the W-2s that were submitted. Line 2 is the total amount of withholding payments that were submitted to the Colorado Department of Revenue for that calendar year. Do not include any amounts paid for previous calendar years or for penalty and interest. Only lines 1 and 2 are manually entered when filing through Revenue Online. Lines 3 and 6 will automatically populate in Revenue Online as the system does the math for you. If there is a balance due reported, and the reconciliation and payment are not received by the due date, the Department of Revenue will calculate the penalty and interest and send a bill. The filing form in Revenue Online and the paper filing form DR 1093 are identical in their line numbers and used for reporting. Line 1 is the total amount of Colorado withholding withheld from all Colorado employees per the W-2s. Line 2 is the total amount of withholding payments that were submitted to the Colorado Department of Revenue for that calendar year. Do not include any amounts paid for previous calendar years or for penalty and interest. If line 1 is greater than line 2, there will be a balance due, and lines 3A, 4, 5, and 6 should be completed. Penalty and interest may be self-assessed if there is a balance due. If penalty and interest are not self-assessed and the return or payment are received late, the Department of Revenue will calculate the penalty and interest and send a bill. If line 2 is greater than line 1, complete line 3B and leave all other lines blank. If the form is filed timely and there are no outstanding delinquencies on the account, a tax refund will be issued automatically upon processing.
Please be sure to account for amounts filed and paid for the final withholding return when calculating line 2 of the annual reconciliation. This is a common error that is seen on withholding accounts. If the final withholding amount is not included in the reconciliation filing, it is calculated as a balance due. This is especially relevant for quarterly filers. This is because the fourth quarter return and the annual reconciliation are due on the same day. So it is very important that the fourth quarter return amount is included on line 2 of the reconciliation. Otherwise, both the fourth quarter return and the reconciliation will be showing amounts due for the same payment. There are a wide variety of resources and tools that are available to you if you find that you ever have questions. On behalf of the Colorado Department of Revenue, Taxation Division, Education and Training, thank you for joining us for this Colorado withholding presentation, and thank you for being tax compliant.